Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first let's talk about Sumy direction. According to information we have, the Ukrainians announced the evacuation from the villages by the name of Vorozhba and Belopolye. Both these two villages are located in the vicinity of the village by the name of Totkin on the territory of Russian Federation, the village that Ukrainians were trying to capture during the Ukrainian offensive operation that took place few weeks ago. So, which confirms that most likely the Russians are planning to open the second front line on this direction with the main purpose to cut the railways that goes from Kiev to Sumy. Furthermore, according to information we have, currently the Russians conducting the sabotage operations along the borderlands with the Sumy area, and significant number of Ukrainian soldiers have already disappeared. Now let's move to Kharkiv direction. We got additional updates and additional videos from the territory. Today we got the final confirmation of the Russian presence in the village by the name of Lukiantsi. On this video we can see the Ukrainian FPV drone operators who were attacking the Russian infantry and the Russian soldiers inside of the village. On this video we can see the FPV drones, bombing the Russian forces inside of this area, which confirms complete Russian control over this territory. Different mappers have also updated their maps showing additional progress of the armed force of Russian Federation, including pro-Ukrainian deep state and neutral Syriac. This is the situation in Lukiantsi. When talking about Buhruvatka, the Russians also managed to improve their positions, and according to different mappers, the Russians captured the intersections of roads between Buhruvatka and the village by the name of Liptsi. Now let's move further to Vovchansk direction. The Russians opened another front line. More precisely, the Russians decided to connected the front lines between, Vovchansk and the Liptsi directions, and the Russians started offensive operation, an assault operation in direction of the village by the name of Ternova. And according to information we have, the first Russian squads have already entered the northern part of the village, and currently this territory is in the gray zone. So now the Russians operates with the broad front line, broad front line on this direction. Now let's move further to Staritsa and Bugrovatka. We have first different updates from different mappers confirming additional Russian progress, and later we got the video confirming that the Russians are already inside of Buhruvatka. On this video we can see 4 Russian soldiers who were moving along the streets of this small block of this Zelena Polyana, small residential block. Most likely during the next 24 hours the Russians will continue offensive operation in Staritsa and Bugrovatka with the purpose to establish complete control over this territory and to force the Ukrainians to fall back. Most likely this is going to happen today. Now let's move to Vovchansk and Agurtsova. We have additional videos confirming the Russian presence. That is 100% confirmation of Russian control over the territory, Russian soldiers with the flags, so confirming that they're inside of the village, that everything is under their control and everything is very good. Vovchansk, we have additional updates of Russian progress inside of the city as well. According to information we have, the Russians managed to reach the streets by the name of Korolenka and to cross the area. According to different military experts, the Russians managed to establish control over almost the entire northern part, but according to geolocations, the Russians just reached, just bypassed the northern part, and there are still a lot of things to do. But as I understand, most likely the northern part will be captured during the, the next 12 hours. Also, we have a lot of videos of how the Russians were bombing and attacking the main Ukrainian supply roads, and despite the reports that Ukrainians don't have any fortifications, even on this video we can see significant network of fortifications, at least in Vovchansk direction. Few more, artillery systems were destroyed by Lancet strikes as well on the direction, which confirms that Russians tried to suppress the Ukrainians and that the clashes continues. Anyway, despite the Ukrainian resistance, we see that Ukrainians don't have enough of forces, enough of reinforcements and reserves to slow down the Russians. The Russians are moving, and currently we see no barriers and no resistance, almost no resistance from the Ukrainian side. Now let's move to Chasiv Yar direction. We have a lot of very interesting updates, and we got the first geolocations confirming the Russians entering on the turtle tank inside of the eastern part of Chasiv Yar. That was almost reduced to ruins during the previous months of bombardments and bombings. The Russian turtle tank entered, and we have adjusted the map showing additional Russian progress. Other mappers confirms that the Russians entered not just the eastern part, but also the Russians managed to advance a little bit along the railways. So for now, about this progress, we have no updates confirming this. Now let's move further to the south in direction of Avdiivka. We have additional updates in the vicinity of Ocheretino. The Russians managed to improve their positions a little bit towards the Ukrainian defense belt in Sokol. We have some progress of the armed forces of Russian Federation in the Pervomayskoye direction. We got the geolocation of Ukrainian FPV drone strikes on the Russian forces, and some of them were geolocated in the southern outskirts of Umanska and on this stronghold, which confirms that the Russians captured around 90% of Umanska and the rest 10% are in the gray zone. So most likely the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation will report today about complete control over this village. Interesting details are coming from Nivoyska. The Russians managed to cut the, let's say, fields that located to the northeast of Nivoyska, and according to different mappers, pro-Ukrainian and neutral mappers, this area is under complete Russian control, and most likely during the next few days the second or third battle for Nivoyska is going to start, and after that the Russians will finish the situation with Krasnogorovka. When talking about Krasnogorovka, a few changes on the deep state map regarding control over some high-rise buildings in the area. Now let's move further to South Donetsk direction. According to information we have, the Russians continue the half encirclement of the village. And according to information we have, Staromayorske is currently already half encircled by the Russians, and also most likely during the next few days the Ukrainians will be forced to abandon their positions and to move further to the west, let's say with the purpose not to be half encircled or encircled by the Russians. So the situation is getting worse, and most likely Staromayorske is going to fall very soon under the Russian pressure. The Western countries, and including United States of America, Denmark, announced about additional military help. Antony Blinken is going to arrive Kiev this night. Most likely he's going to have a very tough conversation with Zelensky regarding the situation on the ground and the problems with Ukraine's army. Basically, he will ask what is going on in Kiev, in Kharkiv and Sumy areas. Also, he will announce about additional military help, which is going to be most likely a very big one. And also, we got report that Spain have already sent or decided to send additional tanks, Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Also, Denmark announced that F-16s will arrive in Ukraine within a month. It's a very important, vital question for the Ukrainian, because F-16s, the Ukrainians need F-16s to slow down the Russian offensive. Also, Jens Stoltenberg stated that if Ukraine loses the war with Russia, then NATO and Western countries are not going to invest money to rebuild Ukraine from the ruins. And this is like very important update for the Ukrainians to understand what is going to be next. About Russia, another very, very high-ranked general was captured by the Russian counter, let's say, intelligence services. Most likely, another traitor, another deputy, first of all, of the most likely former Minister of Defense Shoigu. And as we discussed here recently, Shoigu will be replaced by another, let's say, minister, by another high-ranked person. And the thing that two deputy officers, deputy generals of Shoigu were captured recently, and most likely a lot of questions the Russians have to this person. So we'll see what is going to be next. And the final update is that the Russians start using and complete the testings of their own Navy drones, and most likely this summer the Russians will start using this type of weapon in Masem, and this is going to be a very big troubles for the Western countries in the Black Sea and all over the world. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.